Welcome to Bear Download. I'm Rich Campbell along with Dan Wiederer. It's Friday here at House Hall where the Bears are picking up the pieces to another loss, this time the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. And Dan, the big news today, Brandon Marshall out indefinitely with a lung injury. He also suffered 2 fractured ribs from that tackle by Barry Church. Season might be over, and an injury-plagued season at that.
Yeah, you'd have to think that the season would be over with 3 games left and really no urgency to get him back on the field. Obviously, Marshall was taken to the hospital, at halftime of that game against the Cowboys on Thursday, and he remained there on Friday getting treated for that lung. We're not sure whether it was bruised, punctured, or what the exact details of the lung injury was, but it was serious enough to keep Marshall in the hospital overnight and obviously into Friday. And as the Bears look at this going forward, they're going to have to make do in these final 3 weeks with a receiving core now that's basically Alshon Jeffrey and then Marquise Wilson and Josh Morgan. So a big setback. Even though Brandon Marshall's production had dipped this year, he's obviously still a big part of that offense in demanding attention from defense.
Right. Marshall suffered the high ankle sprain in his right ankle week 1 against the Bills, aggravated it several times since then, and you see it in the production. 61 catches, 721 yards. They'd be his lowest totals since his rookie season. 8 touchdowns. He was able to get in the end zone, but just not the explosive player that Brandon wants to be, that he expects himself to be because of that injury.
Yeah, and he was having a good half yesterday. Obviously, a couple plays before the injury, he had a long 42-yard gain from Cutler up the seam, a big play that kept a touchdown drive going and was having that impact that you see. But as you mentioned, the production just hasn't been there, and a streak of 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, a pretty impressive streak that Brandon Marshall's had, seems to be ready to be snapped here in 2014.
And maybe a silver lining to it, Marquise Wilson stands to get a lot more playing time, Josh Morgan as well, but you really do get an extended opportunity to look at Marquise, maybe make up for some lost time from the collarbone that kept him out all the way through the bye.
Well, and this is another starter, another guy the Bears were counting on when the season began that's now going to be headed potentially to IR, but potentially also lost for the season. And there's been a whole lot of big names when you go back and look at the Charles Tillmans, the Lance Briggs, the Matt Slossons, and the list goes on. Now Brandon Marshall may be joining that group.
Yeah, it's that type of season. All right, we'll keep covering it. ChicagoTribune.com. Stay tuned for updates. For Dan Wiederer, I'm Rich Campbell, and that'll do it for Bear Download.